14 months before landing on the moon, the lunar lander that was supposed to go to the moon was being practiced for landing on Earth by Neil Armstrong. However, this experiment failed badly because Neil Armstrong was unable to land this prototype successfully. It was his good fortune that in the last 2 seconds, he ejected himself and saved his life. But later, when the Apollo 11 moon lander successfully landed on the moon, conspiracy theorists questioned it. People argued that if the moon lander could not even be controlled on the ground, then how did it manage to land on the moon? Welcome once again to Tales of the Past. It has been 54 years since Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon, but even today, many people believe that this was all a hoax created by NASA and America. When listening to these conspiracy theorists, their arguments seem quite convincing. They present very logical points that make an average person wonder whether NASA really lied to us. Were these moon landings actually filmed in some deserted desert? Now, whether this is a coincidence or a conspiracy, these theories always find some reason to resurface every few years. For example, in 2002, Bart Sibrel, a person who believed the moon landings were fake, asked some controversial questions to Apollo 11 astronaut Edwin Buzz Aldrin in front of the media. This enraged Aldrin, and he punched Bart Sibrel in the face. This was the point when theories against the moon landings started circulating again. People claimed that perhaps the second man to walk on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, found the conspiracy theorists' truth bitter, which is why he got angry. But what is the real truth? Was NASA's moon landing real, or was it a secret plan to show the Soviet Union down in the eyes of the world? At the start of the space race during the Cold War, it was the Soviet Union that sent the first satellite into space. Not only that, but the first unmanned spacecraft to touch the moon was sent by the Soviet Union 10 years before NASA's Apollo 11 mission. So what happened that prevented the Soviet Union from sending humans to the moon even once, while NASA has done this 6 times? Let's analyze these theories one by one and try to find the truth. The first thing that makes people suspicious is the camera used to take photographs on the moon. Marcus Allen, a photographer with extensive knowledge about this camera, questions how astronauts manage to operate such a complicated camera on the moon, especially while wearing a spacesuit. A spacesuit is not an ordinary suit. It is fully pressurized. In simple words, these suits are filled with air, making precise hand and finger movements nearly impossible. Conspiracy theorist Ralph Wren conducted an experiment where he wore astronaut gloves and placed his hand inside a container. Initially, he could move his hands and fingers freely, but as soon as all the air was removed from the container using a compressor, the gloves stiffened. Moving his hand in the vacuum chamber became extremely difficult. He argued that in such conditions, pressing the camera shutter or adjusting the focus would be impossible. If this is true, then how were the memorable photos taken on the moon so sharp and perfect? Aerospace engineer Jay Windley states that the camera used by astronauts on the moon was the Hasselblad 500EL, which was specially modified for lunar missions. It was designed to slide and attach to the astronaut's suit so that they didn't need to hold it with their hands. Additionally, the shutter button was made larger so that astronauts could easily press it even with their gloves on. The focus ring was also modified to be rotated even with stiffened gloves. Since astronauts couldn't move their heads much inside their helmet, they practiced extensively on Earth beforehand to capture the best possible photos on the moon. Even in these excellent photos, conspiracy theorists found a mistake: lunar shadows. A former head of the American Rocketdyne Company believes that the shadows seen in the pictures are proof that we never went to the moon. He argued that in many photos taken on the moon, the shadows are not parallel to each other. At the time, Apollo 11 astronauts were on the moon. The only light source was the sun, so the shadows should have been parallel. Because of this, many people believe these photos were taken in a studio using artificial light sources. The closer the light source, the more the shadows spread apart. For example, in one photo, if you look closely, the shadow of the lander's landing gear is going in one direction, while the astronaut's shadow is going in another. This may seem like proof that these shadows were created by artificial light sources. However, experts argue that even on Earth, shadows are not always parallel. For shadows to be parallel, both objects must also be parallel to each other. Additionally, if a photo is taken from a wide angle, shadows will also not appear parallel. If the surface is uneven, shadows won't be parallel either. Another theory that conspiracy theorists often present is about a particular photo. In this image, astronaut Aldrin is descending the lunar lander's ladder. The side of the lander is not in direct sunlight, yet Aldrin appears well lit. Why is it that the lander's shadow is completely black, but Aldrin's body is illuminated? Conspiracy theorist Marcus Allen claims that this would only be possible if a secondary soft light was illuminating him. Since there is no atmosphere on the moon to scatter sunlight, direct sunlight does not diffuse. However, the moon's surface reflects light, which then bounces back. Just like how a full moon night brightens the Earth, the moon's surface reflection was brightening Aldrin in the photograph. Speaking of lighting, the light passing through the American flag also raises suspicion. Conspiracy theorists argue that if sunlight is hitting one side of the American flag, how is the other side perfectly illuminated? The truth is that the American flag on the moon was made of nylon, a material that allows light to pass through easily. But if there is no wind on the moon, why did the American flag appear to wave while being planted? Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin explained that they had not practiced planting the flag in the moon's surface beforehand. The rod they used to plant the flag had to be twisted and pushed into the ground because of the moon's weak gravity. This extra force made the flag move more than expected, giving the illusion that it was waving due to wind. Additionally, the flag was designed with an aluminum rod on the side and another one at the top to keep it from sagging on the moon. Conspiracy theorist and famous author Ralph Wren raised a question that is difficult to explain in Earth's atmosphere. He argued that when a blower is directed at soil or small rocks, the air pressure displaces them, creating a small crater. But there was no crater under Apollo 11 lander. The dirt on the surface of Moon should have covered it whole, but it had no dirt on it. Physicists explain that just a few feet before landing, the lander's rocket motors were turned off, and by the time it touched the Moon's surface, 75% of the thrust had already been reduced. This is why it did not create a crater. However, if you closely observe the images, you can see that the thrust did slightly disturb the lunar soil, spreading it in various directions. Even on 25% of thrust, it should have the pressure of 1,250 kilograms. If the same pressure was exerted on Earth, it could easily leave a big, wide crater. But why it didn't happen on Moon? This cannot be explained on Earth's surface. Another big question that conspiracy theorists ask is why the sky appears completely black in the photos taken on the Moon, just like the night sky on Earth. But why are no stars visible in it? The camera lens works just like our eyes. When we look in complete darkness, our pupils expand to allow as much light as possible to enter. Similarly, our pupils shrink when we look in bright light. If you've ever had the chance, You might have noticed that during stargazing, the surroundings are kept completely dark so that our pupils expand, and even the faintest light from the stars can reach our eyes. But if a light is turned on in the same situation, the stars become invisible. Similarly, during the Apollo 11 mission, when photos were captured on the moon, the entire surface of the moon was glowing with sunlight. Because of this, the camera lens did not capture the stars, as it was already receiving a large amount of light, far brighter than the light from the stars. At that time, despite the sunlight hitting the moon, the sky appeared completely black because the moon has no atmosphere. On Earth, our atmosphere scatters sunlight, which is why the sky appears blue during the day. But in reality, beyond this atmosphere, the sky is actually black. What do you think? Did America really send humans to the moon or not? If you have any thoughts or questions, let me know in the comments section. I hope you will like and share this video. Thank you for your lovely comments. See you in the next amazing video.